As promised, in today's video, we are going to be dealing with the issue of the collision of the John S. McCain and the MC Alnick in the early morning hours just off of the coast of Singapore. Now, we've established in other videos that there were three events this past summer that all coincided with the locations of submarine cables, and with the reporting now by British intelligence that the Russians have designs on these cables. When we looked into these events, we saw beyond any shadow of doubt that all of these ships were over these structures and following these structures exactly. So anyway, without any further ado, now this is a very different issue than the USS Fitzgerald. What's being reported here is that the McCain lost control of the ship and sailed itself right in front of another ship that was just hapless and had no idea what was going on, as opposed to the Fitzgerald, where everything seemed to be perfectly fine and it was just a matter of poor seamanship. Now, in the reporting of this, a lot of the reporting occurs in a very, very, very short time, unlike the Fitzgerald. They do these reporting events in a matter of seconds. Now, I do want to show something real quick here. As we can see here, here's the track in the blue of the McCain, and this is the MC Alnick, the motor vessel, the tanker. And it shows that they had some kind of a mismatch in the power output of the two shafts, one putting out more than the other, causing the turn, something that they were allegedly not aware of, which is incredibly unbelievable given the orders that were given aboard this ship. But I do want to show something here, and I think this is very illustrative to show that they're lying, basically. Now, we look at the event here. Here is the McCain, and here is the MC Alnick. We see the angle of impact, and we look and we see what you would expect. Here is the dent from the bulbous bow. Here is where the stem hit. We see them lining up. We see a human being in the background. It gives us a ballpark, spitball. I use that term a lot lately, but because that's what a lot of these reports are. These aren't exact. And from the Navy, that should tell you plenty. Distance. Anyway, the height of this railing can tell you the distance here. Now, let me show you something else. Here is the USS Fitzgerald. Here is the angle of impact. As you can see, this is at an angle just from the different side of the ship. Okay, McCain Alnick. As you can see, no difference in the geometry of the bows of the ship. The only difference between the MC Alnick and the ACX Crystal is the MC Alnick is 130 feet shorter. But the geometries are the same. Now, look at the difference in the damage here. Above, below. Above, below. Huge. We even saw in the damage here, you could see, not in this particular picture, the mark from the stem about right here. But the bulbous bow was allegedly way, way, way up here and way, way, way down here. But that's the McCain, with the exact same impact geometry. So clearly they're lying. Now, back to the issues with the McCain. Just wanted to show this, the issue with the cable. We showed yesterday with using Vessel Finder that the order to go from 190 to 240 coincided with a bend in the cable from 190 to 240. Here's the issue here where they're traveling on a course of 0230. That's right here, 05118. John McCain turned starboard to course 230 T, speed 20 knots at 0518. Now, this is right before the event. The event is 10 minutes later. And here we are at the AIS ship tracker, and I've already brought up the little pins that you can use, and here it is, 230 degrees. And there's our curve, right where this happened. And as you can see, get this right. There you go. And boom. Here's your 518 mark right here where they were ordering 20 knots, 230 degrees right here. And this is where the alleged loss of steering occurred that steered them right in front of another vessel. Now, when you read through the report of this, it's very suspect. It's incredibly suspect because what it's basically saying is, okay, I'll just go through this. 509, John McCain altered course to 226, increased speed to 18 knots, increased speed to 20 knots, 230 T minor, no problems. Okay, but all of a sudden, no issues up here. Magically, at 0519, commanding officer noticed the helmsman was struggling to maintain course while simultaneously adjusting throttles. CO ordered steering control separated from propulsion control. Okay, now think about this. He's in the middle of a bunch of other ships. It's still probably dark or just starting to get light, 5 o'clock in the morning. And they don't have a representation of contacts on AIS as it states here. What would you do? What would a normal person do? A normal commander do? No, I'm not a naval commander. I've never been aboard the ship, but it would seem like if you're noticing that you're having a problem controlling the direction of travel of your ship, you would slow your ship. Now, we saw in the AIS track that these other vessels were moving at 9 or 10 knots. This guy's moving twice their speed. Think about this. If you're merging into traffic, which is basically what he was doing, and you're going twice as fast as the traffic you're merging into, and you're noticing that you're having a problem keeping the nose of your, we'll just say car, going where you want it to go, I guarantee the first thing you do is you slow. Okay, you don't make a whole bunch of different changes. Okay? And it's 521. Still, helm reported loss of steering to the officer of the deck. Rudders were amidships. JSM was on course 2287. We're all ahead full for 20 knots. And this is 7 minutes before the collision. You're in a ship that has now been reported losing control or not able or struggling to control its direction, and you're still maintaining twice the speed of the ships around you. And this goes to another point, too, that I'm going to bring up in a little bit, but loss of steering casualty announced. 521. Still no order to slow by 52155. Changing the lighting configuration to a vessel not under command. Still no order to slow. Okay, and here's where things get really bad. Okay, they're at a turn now because of this mismatch in thrust, 0.25 degrees per second. Now let's see, that would be what? That would be 1 degree every 4 seconds, so 15 degrees a minute. That's a pretty good turn. Okay, finally, 522, commanding officer ordered the ship slowed with a reduction in speed to 10 knots. Now, this is 6 minutes before the collision. Okay, and here's the most damning thing. No bridge watchstanders were aware of the mismatch in thrust and the effect on causing the ship's turn to port, even though it had just been ordered, this separation between the two. And now, by 522, the rate of turn had doubled to 0.41, almost doubled anyway. And now they've ordered it down to 5 knots at 52245. Okay, and now it's up to 0.5 degrees per second as they're slowing. So it's turning harder as they're slowing, because apparently now what's happening is they're only slowing one of the thrusters, and that's causing the mismatch to be greater, therefore the turn to be greater. So this is what they're reporting. But something very odd happens here at the end of this report. Okay, it says 52358. Alnick's bulbous bow struck JSM between frame 308 and 345. And then it says, after steering still had control of the ship, JSM answered all stop, and JSM set general quarters and damage control assistant assume responsibility for all. Okay, that's what you would expect. This is the Fitzgerald report. Okay. 013034 seconds. Crystal's bow struck Fitzgerald approximately frame 160. There's no report here of general quarters. No report here of collision alarm. Nothing. I find that odd. It's also one of these things that you're supposed to believe that they called a press conference that we've covered ad nauseum the next day, where they reported 3 times that the collision occurred at 2:20 in the morning, not 1:30 in the morning. They also want you to believe that, and they've established here, and this is the Fitzgerald, that there had been no communication between the two ships up until that point. Yet, ever so coincidentally, at 2:25, someone aboard the Crystal is talking to the Japanese Coast Guard, and someone on a cell phone aboard the Fitzgerald is talking to 7th Fleet at 2:25. So, very clearly, we can see that they are lying through their teeth about what really happened that night. And the cause of this steering failure, for sure, is absolutely suspect. Now, one final thing here I wanted to cover, and this is at the very end of the report on the McCain. And I'm going to read through this because it's important to understand what was really going on. Alnick and John S. McCain initially remained attached to each other after the collision. Sailors described this as lasting to a couple minutes. The prolonged contact kept the ship from taking a list. Sailors on the bridge could see Alnick's bow, however, within 15 minutes had developed a 4-degree list. Collision felt through the ship. Watchstanders were jolted. I want to get to the right spot here. Okay, as required by Navy procedures, the executive officer ordered the collision alarm sounded to alert personnel to begin damage control efforts. The commanding officer remained on the bridge, and the XO departed CIC. And here we go. The CO ordered the watch team to announce the collision on the bridge-to-bridge radio, which alerted other ships in the area to the collision and the damages. Why was that not done aboard the Fitzgerald? You cannot tell me that that collision, either the first one or the second one, damaged the bridge-to-bridge radio. There's baloney. Crap. I mean, it's the same thing about the captain of the Fitzgerald allegedly calling for help while hanging outside the skin of the ship, as reported. So here it shows, I mean, that in the case of the McCain, that they had the ability to communicate, that they called for tug assistance, and immediately began to communicate the event to people around them, where we didn't see anything like that with the Fitzgerald for an hour, allegedly. It was an hour, which I don't think is the case. I don't think it's the case at all. And even when the Japanese told the Navy that the event was 1:30, they still stuck with the 2:20 time. And they didn't shoot down the Japanese when they were confronted about this by reporters, because they just didn't want to seem to be confrontational at the time. So anyway, both of these issues and tomorrow's video is going to basically be covering the 10 most unbelievable statements by the Navy about these issues. And this includes the issue with the USS Lake Champlain as well. So anyway, very clearly, there's also an article out where even the families now of the McCain don't feel like there's been closure. And you can look up that particular term, that it's not closure, that they don't have the answers that they want. and I don't blame them one bit. So God bless everyone. Have a very safe weekend. Have a safe holiday weekend, and we will see you next time. Like, share, subscribe.